What's up, everybody? Welcome back in. We got some news I was not expecting to get in the Sarah Boone case, and that's that she may actually be considering calling her ex-husband to the stand to testify in her defense, which doesn't make a lot of sense when you first look at it. But today we're going to go through her motion explaining or having her lawyer explain exactly what battered spouse syndrome is in Sarah Boone's case, how she felt that night, how it affected this case, how they plan on proving it to a jury. And then to determine whether or not we think this is actually going to work out for Sarah Boone, we're going to listen to some of her ex-husband, Brian Boone's statements that he's already made to law enforcement in the past to see how well this really fits in to the battered spouse syndrome. Everybody hit that like button if you haven't already, because we're going to get into a very interesting one today. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is the new motion that Peg sent me, which I appreciate. Anytime something is filed in this case, let's take a look at it together. And it is the amended notice of intent to rely on the defense of battered spouse syndrome. So first off, we're not surprised that this is coming through. We expected it to come through. We knew that his first attempt was just basically to get one in under the gun to make sure he didn't miss any deadlines as the attorney in her case, coming on late, knowing the battered spouse syndrome has to be filed 30 days before trial. He barely got it in under the gun. Now he's going to amend it. And at the end of this, we're going to see him say, I may amend this more, Judge. More information is coming through. More evidence is coming through. And as I get it, I will continue to turn it over. And here's where we may end up getting, as we're under the gun here with the deadlines, if something important comes up that is essential to her defense, whether it's battered spouse syndrome or something else, which we know at this point the state has objected to, which, okay, the judge might have to make a call. Do I strike this evidence as untimely, which is an appropriate sanction? Is that fair after everything that's happened in this case with all the delays and with all the lawyers and this lawyer coming on trying to do the right thing? But that's one option. Option number two would be to allow it in and tell the state, too bad, you've got a shorter amount of time to respond to this or to get whatever evidence you need to rebut this, but I'll allow you the time to do it. That's another remedy. Or a third remedy that I expect the defense to ask for again is a continuance. Judge, we need this information. We need this testimony. We can't get it. We need a continuance. The state's objecting. We need a continuance. So let's take a read. Comes now the defendant by and through the undersigned attorney and pursuant to Rule 3.201 of the Florida Rules of Criminal Procedure hereby moves to amend the previously filed notice to rely on said defense and state's procedural posture. On August 30, a notice of appearance was filed. September 5th, expert Julie Harper met with the defendant at Orange County Jail. September 6th, the notice of intent to rely on the defense of battered spouse syndrome was timely filed. I do appreciate this out of Mr. Owens. At least he got the doctor to go see her before he filed the notice, because we all kind of know the notice is coming. And we all know in a lot of these cases, sometimes experts say whatever you need them to say, right? Especially in this type of situation, there are certain experts that you can call and they testify the same in every case. I'm not saying Ms. Harper or Dr. Harper is that type of expert, but he probably wasn't surprised with her report. But I respect the fact that he said, you got to meet with her first before I file this notice. Theoretically, he could have filed the notice just to protect the timeline. Either way, he had her meet with Sarah Boone. Then he files the notice the next day. At that time, the defense provided the nature of the defense and witnesses insofar as possible. To date, additional information has been obtained through discovery and investigation efforts. Accordingly, the defense moves to amend the initial notice to proffer the additional information. Okay? This is exactly what you should do. This is exactly what we thought he would do, right? If you go back and watch the first video where he filed the notice of intent to rely on this defense, we're like, there's barely anything here. The state filed a motion to dismiss and they want more particulars. Well, they're right. And here it is. Here's the response to that. Battered woman syndrome has been described as a condition wherein a woman who has had a long-standing personal relationship with a man in which she is frequently subjected to physical abuse, remains with the man, but eventually acts against him because of her fear of his continued abuse will mortally injure her. Let's remember this when we're about to listen to some of the comments of Brian Boone, who knows Sarah Boone, who knows George, who knows their history, who has his own history of relationships with Sarah Boone. He's got a lot to say about all of that. At the time of the alleged offense, the defendant was suffering from battered spouse syndrome as a result of the physical and psychological abuse the defendant sustained at the hands of the alleged victim, George Torres. So kind of vague, but at least it's more detailed than the last notice. In support thereof, the defendant will present witness testimonial evidence, records, and pictures and video evidence to support its contention. What do we expect this to look like? Well, certain people testify, how George treated her, what the relationship was like. Was it abusive? Was it violent? Pictures of bruising or scratches after the fact, videos of maybe them talking to each other, similar to, the suitcase video where she's kind of talking and filming him. Records. Did she ever go to the hospital or doctor? Are they going to introduce any arrests or convictions in the past of George? Accusations, things like that. Are they going to try to introduce, accusations against George's family? I don't see how that gets in, but he made mention of it in a press conference, meaning the lawyer, when I say he, Mr. Owen. So will they try to get that in? I don't know. But that's what it means to rely on testimonial evidence, records, pictures, and video evidence. Statement of particulars. In particular, the evidence will demonstrate factors that trigger battered wife syndrome, the physical symptoms experienced during battered wife syndrome, the distinct behavior and psychological symptoms exhibited by the defendant that are consistent with a person who suffered from battered wife syndrome, and the impact of battered wife syndrome as it relates to the facts of this case. He's calling it battered wife syndrome. In the past, that's what it's been called. Battered spouse syndrome also applies and works. Depends on when you're citing the rule. In different cases, what they call it. He says BWS. That's what we'll call it as far as to be consistent with what he is saying. Expert testimony. Dr. Julie Harper, forensic psychologist, here and after Dr. Harper, will be a Category A witness for the defense in establishing the condition on behalf of the defendant. To date, Dr. Harper has met with and evaluated the defendant on multiple occasions. The visits date back as early as August of 2020. So this isn't somebody new. This isn't somebody that he just found. But instead, this is somebody that he knew had already met with Sarah Boone and is going to give probably a similar opinion to what she gave early on. And that's really the only way it would work, because if she's changing her opinion, then that she could be impeached. It would be seen as inconsistent, so on and so forth. But they also have witnesses relevant to the battered wife syndrome defense. Before we get there, Rebecca said, best channel/chat on YouTube. I will agree with the chat part. That's for sure. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And make sure you guys get your questions in. I'll be answering a lot of them as we listen to the comments made by her husband. And Rebecca also is gifting 10 Lawyer memberships. We got some new members joining today, which is always awesome. All right, Dr. Julie Harper, which we already knew about. Officer John Alden, Orange County Sheriff's Office, specifically with an incident in August of 2019. That's 5 years ago. Then we have another officer specifically testifying about the incident on September 4th, 2019. Then another officer that's going to talk about June of 2019. That's June 15th, excuse me. There's another officer for June 18th. So 1, 2, 3, 4 dates in 2019. Okay. So all of these officers and all these different dates. So I have all sorts of questions popping into my head, but my overarching thought is, listening to this, had there been nothing since 2019? Or do we have pictures and videos and records that can prove what happened since 2019? But these officers specifically are going to come testify about what happened in 2019. The obvious question about how she treated him, how does that fit into battered wife syndrome? That's something we're going to have to wait to hear the experts discuss together. But potentially, they're going to bring all these officers to talk about accusations, maybe arrests of George, I would assume, being violent with Sarah Boone, because she's saying these are potential witnesses relevant to the battered wife defense. Doesn't mean that they have to call them. You would assume they're going to call Julie Harper. But these officers, interesting and pretty much exactly what I expected. But what did I not expect? Brian Boone. They may call Brian Boone as a witness. And that's wild to me, because I watched the body cam footage originally, and we're going to watch it today and listen to another interview that he did on the phone with law enforcement. to see exactly how he feels and what he has to say about Sarah Boone, about George, about their relationship, about drinking, about violence, all of it. The defendant's investigation of evidence to support the defense of battered wife syndrome is ongoing. The defense anticipates additional witnesses, photographs, videotape, medical records, court records, and other evidence gathered from defendant's phone will be forthcoming. This evidence will be disclosed as it is discovered. And we know they've had some problems with getting her phone, gaining access to certain evidence, talking to people that lived where they lived in 2019 and beyond to testify about their relationship. So we know that the defense has had some issues with that, and they are going to try to find that evidence to be able to produce it before the jury to prove that this was a battered wife syndrome defense. Manley said, any liability to declaring pro bono in filings, but saying Sarah owes him in public interviews, love it when there is a live on a workday from home. So that was the last video that we did. It was a full deep dive breakdown. And my answer is it depends. It all depends on how he's classifying the pro bono hours. You are allowed to get paid later on certain work that you do, but not all work. There's a very much deeper and longer answer to this. I really encourage you to go check out the playlist, the last video we did, which we dove into the rules of ethics in Florida, the pro bono requirements, how you have to certify pro bono hours, what you can do to avoid them. So I encourage you to go check that out. All right, let's now jump into the husband's interview. And this was done by Mentor Lawyer and Deep Dive True Crime or something like that. I want to give him a shout for putting this together. We're not going to listen on 2x speed, how I listened. We'll go to 1.5 speed. But let's take a listen to this together. I found it to be very, very interesting.
Today's date is February 24th, 2020. The time now is approximately 15:25 hours. This is in reference to Orange County case number 20-017904. I am currently located in my unmarked agency vehicle in front of...
Yeah, you guys are right. Boone was arrested in 2020. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking it's 2024 now. You're right. Everybody is correcting me in the chat. You guys are the best. That's totally on me. I was thinking, it's been 5 years. What's going on? I haven't had enough coffee. This is my afternoon coffee that I'm going to have here together. Thank you for correcting me. I genuinely appreciate it. I hate getting things wrong. And in my mind, that's where it went as I was reading it. But regardless, you guys are the best. And you're right. 2019, most relevant time period with a 2020 arrest. Suitcase happened on February 23rd, 2020. I appreciate you. And now we get to look at the comments. We get to look at the comments on the video. If you ever guys want to ever see anything funny, and by funny, I mean ironic, go check out, if I do something like this and we're like 12 minutes in, go look at how people explode on me in the comments. None of you guys, of course, because you are correcting me and helping me in the live chat, but afterwards people love to point out when somebody's wrong. So I appreciate you guys so much. I appreciate you guys. So yes, you are right. 2019, most relevant time period, 4 times in 2019, very relevant. We'll see who was arrested, what the accusations are going back and forth for all of those arrests. Was there any prior to 2019? We're going to get some timelines here. I think that they had been divorced for about 1.5 to 2 years prior to this, which he's going to talk about more. But yes, that's a very, very, very important detail. So thank you for correcting me on that. You guys are completely right. What's happened in the last 4 years, Peter? Well, she's been in jail, so nothing between her and George. So that's my B. Okay. All right, here we go.
4748 France Lane, apartment number 3 in Winter Park, Florida. Also in the car with me is my partner,
Scott Lowen, Kentucky Village County Sheriff's Office.
and your name?
Brian, 75.
Okay. So Brian, to my understanding, you were called over here. So can you just take me back to this morning and your involvement with Sarah, which is your ex-wife?
Yes,
Is that correct?
yes. We've been divorced about 1.5 years.
Okay.
I started calling her probably 10:30 or so. It's her day to pick up the kid, but
Okay.
it doesn't always happen. 1 or 2 days a week, maybe she gets them.
Out of the 5?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So,
And what do you, like every other day you're supposed to?
well, we're supposed to. She's Monday, Tuesday, I'm Wednesday, Thursday, and we alternate Friday through Sunday. Is how it's supposed to. I was actually my lawyer back a couple weeks ago because I was looking to get a change because she can never stick to it. There's always some reason why. So it's general that I start calling her around to find out if she's actually going to get him, even though yesterday she told me she would. So I started calling her about 10:30. Never got an answer until. All right. So I finally got a hold of her at 12:49.
And did she call you or you call her?
No, I called her. I called her at 11:25. I did that twice. I always call twice because generally she's asleep or whatever. And then I called her 2 more times at 12:21, and then I called her again at 12:49, and that's when she answered.
Okay.
Freaking out, saying that George was dead, and could I please come over? So I told her, you need to call the police.
Mm-hmm.
And went and got my dog in his crate and everything, and started heading over.
He's already, like, some of the details and the fact stuff he'll testify to, but we're going to focus on the battered wife syndrome stuff because that's where he's been listed as a witness. And he's already said some things that don't really color her in a positive light, where she's sleeping. She doesn't pick up their kid when she's supposed to. She was probably drinking. That's not unusual for her. He's got a caller she sleeps in. So all of these types of things that he has to say about her are not overwhelmingly positive. Rebecca said, what would you do, Peter? If you mean, would I call him or not? I'll save that answer until we hear what he has to say. But I think you're going to know my answer after we listen to this. Yeah, it seems like she did call him before 911. I don't know what their relationship was like, because he's going to say, I still gave her some money. I helped her out here. I helped her out there. I've got her this place close to us because we thought it'd be better for their son. And things like that. I think he seems like a nice guy. More importantly, almost than he seems like a nice guy, he seems like a normal guy, which is, strange to see, like, how him and Sarah Boone lasted so long, but he's going to talk about some of that. But I think he would be a very good witness for one side or the other. I'm not sure which side the defense thinks he would be good for, but let's keep listening here to what he had to say.
Here, she called me again at 12:54, asking if I was going to be coming over, if I'd left yet. And I told her I had already left. I was going to be there in a couple minutes. So I got here, knocked on the door, walked in just right in the front entrance area. Told her once again, you need to call the police.
Was she on the phone with anyone when
Not
you
yet.
saw her?
Not yet.
Okay.
She was shaking, and she was trying to get herself something to drink because she was just like freaking out. So that's when she got on the phone and called, and I said, I'm going outside because I don't really want to be in here right now. So I came outside and I sat in my car until people showed up, and it's kind of where we've gone from there. So
so you called her about 5 or 6 times before she answered.
Yeah, which completely
normal to you. The rotation real quick. So Monday, Tuesday, she'll have them. Wednesday, Thursday, you'll have them, and then you rotate each weekend.
Yeah, well,
Like it's every other weekend.
How it's supposed to work. Generally, it's 1 or 2 times, maybe a week. I think she had him last Tuesday was the last time he was actually over here.
And spent the night?
Yes.
Okay.
It's probably another week before that.
What's your son's name?
Lucas. Lukas.
L-U-K. And Boone?
Yeah.
You think he stayed here last Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was last Tuesday.
What?
All right. So he's starting to give some details, and I see people saying, sorry, I'm divorced. How do you trust what's coming out of his mouth? And then other people saying normal people lie, nice people lie. Everybody lies. I agree with you. I'm not saying that only certain kinds of people lie, but some people get certain things out of certain circumstances. Some people don't get things out of certain circumstances. I'm just telling you from a lawyer's perspective, right? I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a fortune teller. I can't tell you. I can't look at somebody or listen to somebody and tell you whether they're lying or telling the truth. But what I'll tell you is somebody who calls witnesses and talks to witnesses and hears witnesses answer questions and hears certain witnesses' backgrounds, I think he would be a good witness. It doesn't mean he would, but I think he would be a good witness. And we have to realize the jury doesn't know any of the witnesses or the parties, the victim, the defendant from Adam when they show up. So they're just looking at people back and forth and trying to determine who's telling the truth and who's not. And from my perspective, I think he comes off as credible. If you guys don't, please let me know. Let me know why. But imagine if Sarah Boone calls him to the stand. Do you think she's then going to also say he's not credible? I don't, that's not usually how it goes. Sometimes it does, but that's not usually how it goes. And that's the big part here. I assumed the prosecution was going to call him, but Sarah Boone puts her on her potential witness list to call to prove battered spouse syndrome was very surprising to me. And if she calls him, that's going to give credibility to what he says.
Well then, okay, so you technically have him more than she does. Is that what you're getting?
Yeah, that's why I said I was.
So even though that's how it's supposed to be, you still have him.
Yeah, it's not a good day. George is in a bad mood or whatever else reason. I think sometimes just she wants to stay up and drink and can't really do that if she's got to wake up and take him to school the next day.
Right.
Any number of different reasons. So. But.
Okay. How long have you known Sarah?
So any number of reasons she basically neglects her kid is what he's saying. And some of it has to do with drinking. And we know drinking is a big part of this case because Sarah Boone is saying, oh yeah, no, everything was fine. And then later kind of saying I passed out, and we know there were multiple bottles of wine. And so what does drinking exactly have to do with it? How does drinking, again, focusing in on battered wife syndrome, how does drinking affect that? Because if you know you're doing something and you know you're treating George like that and physically doing that to him, if you know that, then how can you use, I was intoxicated, I passed out, I don't remember, I blacked out? If you knew that's why you were responding the way you did is because of all your past history with him. That's an interesting question.
Since, let's see here, I was probably 23 or so when we met.
Oh, wow.
Something like that.
Since you were 23?
Yeah. Yeah, so probably, 20 years. We dated for quite a while, and then got married, whatever it was, 12, 13 years ago, something like that. Well, I guess 12, 13 years ago before the divorce. So I guess like 14, 15 ago, something like that, maybe.
Okay.
No, I think that's a great point as well. And again, this is adding to his credibility from Sarah Boone's side, right? Because I would think if somebody's going to try to hit his credibility, it would be Sarah Boone, not the state.
What can you tell me about her?
I don't. She's generally not. She can get a bit violent when she drinks. Not to this kind of extent.
Right.
I don't know what.
She can get a little violent when she drinks, not to this extent. And again, he's not accusing her of being some kind of killer or whatever, some stone cold, person. But he does say she gets violent when she drinks, and we know she at least had something to drink. Now, again, in the interview, she says, oh, I don't drink. That's the other problem is they have her interrogation, which they're going to play parts of. How, oh, no, we weren't drinking that much. I don't really drink. George gets violent when he drinks. And then this guy gets called. I think the state's going to call this guy, whether or not Sarah Boone does. And he's going to say she gets violent when she drinks. That's a combustible environment. It's not a good environment, but it also hurts a battered spouse syndrome defense.
Happened exactly.
Right. No, I'm just looking for.
That was part of it. The alcohol has gotten worse and worse and worse over the years. That's one of the. That
contradicts exactly what she's saying, basically at the same time in the interrogation room.
The main reasons why I divorced her. I just couldn't deal with it. It got to the point where on weekdays she'd go out, and I guess the George person is one of the people she had met because I separated at one point, went over to my parents' house to live for a few months, and I guess she met him over at the pool place or something like that. But I'd come back and we were in therapy trying to work it out, and on a weeknight when he's got school the next day, I've got work the next day. She was out till 3 o'clock in the morning when the bar closes, and
they're in therapy working on their relationship. Her son's got school the next day, and she's out till 3 o'clock in the morning at the bar till the bar closes. I think she loses a lot of credibility with him as a witness, and I don't think any of this is good for the battered wife syndrome.
Bring people back over on the back porch. One time some random person walked in my house and started screaming for Sarah at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning when we're trying to sleep. I just couldn't get over it.
So did you still live here?
No. I bought her out of our house.
Okay.
I was going to just sell it and move because I kind of want to go back to College Park, which is where I'm from. But right. I thought it would be maybe easier for Lucas if I just bought her out and kept that house so he had a little bit of continuancy, kind of.
Understandable.
So that's what I ended up doing. And then she moved right down the street here. So.
And how long would you say the alcoholism has been a part of her life?
It's always been a part of her life. It seemed to have gotten worse and worse. I think more or less kind of since we had Lucas. And I think a lot of it was the fact that she kind of, I guess, maybe felt trapped or something.
Okay.
That, before that, whenever she wanted, you're outside having a drink. Oh, I want to go play pool. You go over across the street, you play pool for a little bit.
Yeah.
That's not happening anymore when she got a kid.
Right.
So.
How old's your son?
He is 9. So, But I mean,
Like legitimately, how sad is that? Like that's something that doesn't get talked about enough in this case. There's a kid out there who this is his mom, and that's tough. And these accusations are tough if they're not true and she wins and is some kind of an accident or battered wife defense ends up holding up. Still brutally sad for this kid to have to go through regardless of the outcome. If she did it, obviously, and she gets convicted of it, as if because there's no defense, or even convicted of an accidental crime as a lesser included, it's just brutal when you think about her son.
She started just getting really angry when she drank a lot. She said last night she fell asleep. There were plenty of times where she just basically passed out from drinking. So,
so you've witnessed her pass out from drinking?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And when she passes out, is she?
He has witnessed her passing out from drinking. Now, again, this is part of the story that we've all kind of thought potentially happened. That's why she passed out. That's why she slept in so late. That's why she didn't remember, whatever it may be. Which is not a defense to all the crimes. It could be a defense to some kind of criminal intent, but it's not an ultimate defense of intoxication. Voluntary intoxication is not a defense in Florida, which is what this would be. But to me, it completely wipes the battered spouse defense, right? If you're messing with him and you're happy he's suffering in there and you're filming him on the camera, you're saying, this is how I feel when you do this to me or you hit me or you choke me or whatever it is, then you pass out because you drank too much, you still intentionally did a lot of actions there that resulted in his death. I would argue criminal actions. Not, I was so scared at what he was going to do to me if I let him out.
She out cold?
Oh, she's out.
Like how difficult would it be to wake her?
Oh, I mean, if I were to shake her or something,
right.
I could probably wake her up. But me making a phone call or noise probably wouldn't do it.
Okay. And would she be in the middle of doing something and just out cold, or would she go to bed?
Yeah,
and
it would be
out cold?
Yeah, she wouldn't fall over or anything. It'd be more of a lay down and then she just out.
Right. Okay. What do you know about her and George's relationship, if anything?
It was. I mean, I think she had him arrested 5 or 6 times for domestic violence. I mean, he's
okay. So I see people in chat being like, I don't get how he could be a good witness for her. I'm with you, but let's put our thinking caps on and try to figure out how he could benefit Sarah Boone at all on the stand. And now he's about to start getting into. She called the cops on him or had the cops arrest him 5 times or something like that. I will back it up to hear exactly what he said. But even the way he says that almost seems like it's Sarah Boone's fault.
I mean, I think she had him arrested 5 or 6 times for domestic violence.
She had him arrested, meaning George. She had him arrested 5 or 6 times. Not necessarily that he did anything wrong, but she had him arrested. I just found that language curious.
I mean, he's stuck a steak knife in the back of her leg one time.
Okay.
Seems pretty violent. That could be good for Sarah Boone, right? That he has stuck a steak knife in the back of her leg. That could be good for Sarah Boone as far as battered spouse syndrome, right? We're trying to find something. Why would they ever call this guy? Because there's a lot of bad.
So he's been arrested. So has he always been the one that gets arrested, or has she ever?
She was also one of the times.
Okay.
One of the times, both of them were arrested.
Sorry, I keep pausing because we need to discuss. He says that she has also been arrested in these back and forth disputes. Does that show fear? Does that show battered spouse? Is that normal in battered spouse? How are the experts going to deal with that? That's going to be a fact that's not good for Sarah Boone that she's going to need to explain.
But all the others have been him. But the very next day, she's in there trying to get bailed out. So I don't know. Basically, they get drunk, they get in a fight, she gets upset, she calls the cops. I mean, granted, I saw lots of black eyes, bruises.
On her?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, there definitely was. Now,
would you see George as much as you would see him or her?
I hardly ever saw him.
You hardly.
I honestly, I didn't like being around either one of them.
Right.
To be honest, and him more so. So.
Why's that?
Just I don't know. It's my ex-wife. She made me really mad with everything. how the whole divorce went down, and just, I mean, the way she acted and the way she changed and the way they both are. I mean, what it's done. He's nobody I cared to see. Let me put it that way. I mean, it's not like I really went out of my way to it's just.
When you guys do drop-offs or anything, is it always through the school, or would you like have to come here and see them, or no?
No, it's pretty much always during the school. Sometimes she would come over or something like that. Sometimes he would be driving, but I mean, he would just stay in the car. She would come in. So I mean, I really wouldn't see him.
So it's not like you have like conversations with George. Okay.
No, I mean, maybe a few times when they've drunkenly called me at night because she was telling me she needed to escape because of whatever's going on.
Okay. That's not really detailed, but I'm trying to find what Sarah Boone's team thinks they're going to use to prove battered spouse. She had to call him in the middle of the night because she had to escape whatever was going on there. And then if Sarah Boone testifies, she could add some context to exactly what was going on when she called her ex-husband to help her escape.
She's put him on the phone. I don't know.
When's like the last incident that you recall of there being like a domestic dispute between her and George?
I mean, she told me like a week ago she had to escape from the house and wanted me to come pick her up. I told her I wasn't going to because I'm just tired of it happening. I mean, it was midnight. I mean, child's trying to sleep, and just honestly, I don't always believe her when she said these things were going on. And
she called you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, apparently she went back inside and slept well. So the fine mood the next day. I guess didn't really remember calling me. So I don't know if it was just she wanted to come over to. I don't know. She keeps on trying to come over to like hang out or something like that.
And again, Reese's mom, Rebecca, everybody has their opinions on whether he's telling the truth or he's lying. All I can do is listen and be like, it sounds credible. He's answering quickly. His answers make sense. Why would he lie in this moment when he's standing outside the house where his wife just potentially did something horrible? I just like, is now the time he's like, oh, I'm going to make her look bad because I'm going to get to pay her less money or what? I just don't know. I don't know. But yeah, testimony is the most often used evidence in trials. So it's important whether everybody lies or everybody doesn't lie. And I agree. People lie. Everybody lies at some point in their life. That doesn't mean everything they say is a lie. That's my opinion. And again, we have to use what people say to prove cases every day in America.
She'll come over to spend time with Lucas rather than actually just having him over here like she's supposed to, but she wants to come over there and play with him. And so I'm not sure how real that was. Last time I know there was an actual physical confrontation. It's probably been a little while because this last time George got arrested, I know he was on free trial, whatever, something. I don't know. He had a parole officer. He had a domestic violence class. He's like.
So that's the last time. Basically, the last time he was arrested was the last physical altercation that you recall.
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know for sure, but I think so.
And you have any idea what year or month that may have been?
Like a few months, maybe.
A few months ago.
Yeah, something like that, maybe.
So he's not going to be the expert on the timeline, but as I was wrong earlier, and it's 2024, but we know she's been in jail for all that time. It probably was just a few months earlier, right? This is February of 2020. I think it was June through August, maybe even a little bit after that we have those cops that are going to testify. Do I still have it here? I do. The earliest was June 15th. The latest was September 4th. So yeah, about 5 or 6 months before February of 2020 had been at least some of these officers that are going to testify about incidents around those times. Yes, unfortunately, I hear a lot of lies. People lie, but it's part of the world we got to deal with, right? And understand how to keep moving on. Diana, violent behavior when drinking can be a symptom of battered spouse syndrome. I wish we knew more about Sarah's background prior to her marriage to Brian. Maybe there's a history of abuse towards her. And again, that's why I really want to wait on a lot of this stuff and see how it's presented by the lawyers, by the experts. They're going to put all this stuff together, take the background, take the facts that are relevant, take the actions in this case, taking what was going on in her mind at the time, putting it all together and giving it to us. And that's going to be really important. So I'm not going to jump to a conclusion on that. But there are some indisputable facts that we've seen on video that are going to be tough for her to deal with.
I don't think it was incredibly long.
Okay. Like around the holidays of last year, before the holidays?
I think it was probably before the holidays. I'm trying to remember.
Okay.
So Scott M., he does mention this, and it's harder for husbands and fathers to do this than you may think. And There are some things I probably don't want to comment on completely, but I think that he wanted his son to have a relationship with his mom as well. It doesn't seem like he wanted to completely take him away for whatever reason. I don't know. That's a total speculation guess, which I don't like to do. Point is, I don't know the answer to this. If you want to take that as a knock on him, okay. A lot of what he's saying sound good for Sarah. Peter, your thought. I disagree. I think a couple things he's saying sound good for her, but you have to remember that she's got to produce this battered spouse defense. So if he's saying, yeah, he stabbed her and hit her a few times, she hit him, they both got arrested on multiple occasions. But wait, we're not done yet, Reese's mom. So yes, I am trying to point out the things that they can use, and there's definitely something in here, or multiple things in here that could show that George was potentially abusive towards Sarah, but there's also a lot that makes it difficult. We'll talk about if we're balancing it, if I would call Brian at the end of the video.
Because oddly enough, there's like a 3-week period where she actually had Lucas all the time she was supposed to, because he was in jail for a month or something like that.
Okay.
Because they wouldn't let him out.
Yeah.
So he just said she was better when George was in jail. And she was actually picking up Lucas when she was supposed to.
Yeah. And you said when she drinks that she can get physically aggressive.
She can. I mean, she did it to me a lot, where she'd hit me and stuff like that. I mean, she's tiny. I mean,
Yeah. What do you mean hit though? Like open hand smack you, or like try to punch you?
Yeah, she'd punch me. I mean, more arms. She many times would use her claws. I mean, I had scratches on my neck at times, on my arms. I mean, things like that where she'd dig with her claws.
Okay.
That's pretty much a deal breaker for me about calling him. Her prior husband, she punched him, slapped him, clawed him. And he's like, it's no big deal. She's little, no big deal. You know, didn't hurt. She couldn't really do anything to hurt me. But like, that's pretty much where I'd have to draw the line on. I'm not calling this guy. We're not trying to prove, just so everybody is not confused about what a battered spouse syndrome is. It's not, did George ever hit Sarah? It's not, did Sarah and George ever get in fights? Did they ever get in physical altercations? That is not the question. That's not the question. I'm going to pull up again off the screen, and I'm going to read it to you guys again. At the time of the alleged offense, the defendant was suffering from battered spouse syndrome as a result of psychological and physical abuse the defendant sustained at the hands of the alleged victim. Evidence will demonstrate factors that trigger BWS, the physical symptoms experienced during BWS, the distinct behavioral and psychological symptoms exhibited by the defendant that are consistent with a person who suffers from BWS, and the impact of BWS as it relates to the facts of this case. That's what we're trying to figure out. Can somebody have a history of acting physically and emotionally like Sarah Boone and be a battered spouse, diagnostically speaking, to where they are so in fear that they just leave him in the suitcase? Does she have that psychological makeup? Is that why? Is she so in fear of how her spouse will respond? And do her actions prove that fear? Yeah, Reese's mom, I have the benefit of knowing what's coming next, and you didn't. So I get it. I get where you're coming from, because there were a couple nuggets there that Sarah Boone could use. But that's the real question. I think if it was just to prove that, George and Sarah physically hit each other, I think they'd be able to prove that. But to the level of battered spouse syndrome, that's the difficult part.
I never got that drunk, and I had restraint. I never touched her back. I think George didn't have that restraint, and at times he would hurt her back. So for all I know,
he says, I had restraint, so I never hit her back. Of course, he's going to say that. Is he telling the truth or not? I don't know. This guy's not on trial. George didn't have that restraint. So he testifies that. How does he know that? Is it based on what Sarah's telling him? Is it based on allegations? Is it based on arrests? I don't know. But even he says George doesn't have that restraint. He would hit her back after she hits him. Back it up just to listen to it one more time.
Touched her back. I think George didn't have that restraint, and at times he would hurt her back. So for all I know, all the times he got arrested, she started it. I don't know. I wasn't there, so but I know she could.
And also, he just said, like, for all I know, I don't know, I wasn't there. those types of qualifications, if I'm the state, I'm going to object to him testifying to that. I'm going to object to him testifying about whether George responded to her, she responded to George, who hit who did what. It's all he said, she said, hearsay. He wasn't there. He didn't see it. He doesn't actually know. Therefore, he can't testify about it. So I actually think the state will be able to limit a lot of his testimony.
It would get violent at times.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't know, it wasn't anything too, I don't know, too much. I mean, just.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you don't feel like she was a huge threat.
No,
right.
no.
Yeah. Like you could handle yourself.
Yes.
Does she drink daily?
I think pretty much.
Okay. And do you know like her drink of choice?
That would be vodka.
Vodka.
Or wine, but vodka is the big one.
And does she or George have a job?
No. She hasn't worked for over 2 years. Well, I guess you could maybe call when he's got a job. He worked at the Ace Hardware up across the street here,
Okay.
which is now going out of business.
Okay.
He kind of off and on worked there. When he did work, it was 15, 20 hours a week, something like that. I mean, my alimony and stuff basically pays for where they live. So, I mean, they didn't need a ton, but I mean, she was always calling to borrow money. And but yeah, it's been like 2 years since she got a job. She keeps on telling me she's looking, and she's always finding other opportunities and everything, but.
Right.
Okay.
Do you want to take it?
It's my dad. Just
Sure,
one second. Yeah. So I come get him. The guy. Is John out? Yeah. Oh, okay. Is he awake? Okay. Good. Very soon. Okay. Bye. Sorry.
Okay. We were just on the phone with someone. Okay. When you came over here, I know you said that she called you freaking out saying he was dead. Did she give you any more? Like, did you ask why?
So now they're going to go into some of the factual stuff, which we'll still listen to, but really focus on what he says, overarching stuff about Sarah Boone and George. That's the really important stuff that I think they'd want him to testify to. Peter, Brian's testimony is a perfect day for you to be in court to view the jury's reactions. Maybe. We'll see. I don't know when he's testifying. It's probably going to be more based on my work schedule than what's going on in the trial. I know I don't want to be there for the jury selection days, but I'm going to have to match my calendar up with what's going on in court and try to pick the best stuff I can get to. But I want to hear your guys' suggestions, what you think I should try to get to. Maybe we can rank them or something in this month's Members Only Live and figure out when we can get over there.
She told me that they were playing last night or something, and he got in the suitcase and she fell asleep.
Okay.
They were playing. He got in the suitcase. You can see the verbiage up there, and she fell asleep. So that's what Sarah told Brian. Similar to what she told other people, but she also said, I zipped him in the suitcase. So we will see exactly how the testimony is developed at trial, because that can make a big difference. What we're hearing, what we know, might not be how it comes out before a jury, and that's the real big question. Somebody said, I see zero path. Kathy said to not guilty. Well, we got to see how it is presented to the jury, right? We got to see how the battered spouse syndrome is presented to the jury. We got to see how the prosecutors explain that being drunk is not a defense. Is there going to be a jury instruction from the judge? A lot of questions still up on how this is exactly going to be presented to the jury.
That's all she told me, so I don't know anything beyond that.
Okay.
And I really didn't talk to her much because I came inside. I told her you need to call the police, and then I came back out, and I think she went on the back porch to smoke a cigarette, so I didn't even really talk with her much.
Oh, like she was going outside. Did you see her take a cigarette?
Yeah, she was going outside with well, I also know when the cop showed up, she kept on telling them she had a cigarette burning out there, and she needed to go put it out.
Okay.
But they were keeping her away from stuff, I guess.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, she wanted me to come back there with her. I was like, I'm going out here. I don't be in here, so.
Right.
Bodie, this is one of those where, and people accuse lawyers a lot of coming up with defenses. And this is one where we were playing the game. Everything was great. It was totally fine. By the way, a little preview. Christina said, loved today's podcast on Spotify. Thank you so much, Christina. Yes, episode 1 of the Lawyer You Know podcast dropped. Whitney, my wife, was on there with me. We were talking Corey Richins. Please go give it a 5-star review and like it and stuff wherever you guys watch podcasts, and go listen to it and download it because it's something new that we're starting. But me and my wife we do a Sarah Boone episode here in a couple weeks. And Bodie, she has a lot of the same questions and brings up like, how was everything perfectly fine? how was it all good? How were they joking? How was it fine? And then it turned like that. And now all of a sudden it's a different story. So I think a lot of lay people are going to feel the same way. And that's kind of what's cool about the podcast is my wife and some of the other guests that I have on that are not lawyers, they literally ask the same questions you guys do. And we get to really break them down and have a back and forth with somebody that is representative of the chat's voice, which I think is really cool. And I appreciate. So I thank you guys so much for listening to it and liking it and leaving kind comments for Whitney. She doesn't do any of this professionally and just thought it would be fun. So, be nice, or you can still make fun of me and be mean to me, but be nice to her, please. As far as the Knowles, man, I don't know what to say about it, Christina. It's just nothing to say. Go Tigers, sure. Go everybody else. It's not our year. I'm just going to have to suffer through it. It's not fun, but we're here. Does Sarah understand the evidence against Sarah Boone? My guess would be yes. She has not been found to be incompetent to stand trial. So I think she understands at least some of the evidence against her. Now, is she attacking it the appropriate way? I don't know. Her admin said she was very hands-on and she wouldn't back up in a quarrel with 12 people, even alone. Was that still George influencing her? I don't know. Don't forget she put her kid in a suitcase too. So I haven't seen a lot of that discussed since the beginning, Reese's mom. I don't know if it's going to come in. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how that comes out.
And that's when she went to call 911.
Well, she called 911 while I was in there. I was standing right in the foyer area.
Okay.
And I mean, it was apparently a pretty quick conversation, and that's when she started to go that way. And I just told her I'm going out front. So.
Okay. Okay. So they were playing, and she went upstairs and went to bed.
I don't know where she went. She just told me she went to sleep.
Or she went to sleep. Okay. You don't know where.
I don't know where.
You didn't ask more questions.
I didn't ask more questions. I leave that to you guys.
Yeah. No problem.
Hello? Well, I was in the foyer.
No, not today.
Oh, before today? I'm trying to remember if I've been in there. I haven't even really been over here lately.
So it's been a long time.
It's probably been at least weeks, maybe.
Does Lucas play baseball or anything yet?
We've tried to get him into sports. He's not a big sports person, really.
Did you ever play baseball?
He didn't play baseball. Well, I mean, I had him like a T-ball set and stuff like that, and we'd play catch.
Is it like a plastic T-ball set, or what kind of equipment did you have?
Oh, well, this is when he was like 3 years old. It was a little plastic thing I had in the backyard.
Did you ever buy him any baseball bats or anything?
I bought one for over here that Sarah said for Lucas and George to like play with or something. That was.
I mean, a lot of this stuff I know. It's like he would help her out with the rent. He would put money in her account when she was under. He bought a baseball bat for George and Lucas to play at the house. Like all sorts of. It's like the guy seems like a saint. Maybe that's a little overboard. I'm not sure how relevant any of that is to the battered spouse syndrome. But also, like, did he think George and Sarah were so bad if he wanted Lucas to be here and was trying to promote the relationship and relationship with Sarah, relationship with George, even getting a baseball bat? I don't know what to think about a lot of that. I'm sure you guys have opinions.
That was like a year ago or something, maybe.
What kind of bat was it? Was it a wood bat?
Yeah, it was a wooden bat. I think it was like a junior size thingy. I don't know. It's something that I looked like kind of for his height or something, I think.
All right.
Okay. Would you mind if I took a picture of your call log to show
Sure.
that you've all the
Do you just want to see hers, or like zoomed in on hers so you can see all those?
Yeah, that's perfect. So I'd say starting from today. I know her phone.
Did you text with her at all today?
Not today. I don't think I did today at all.
Sorry.
That was last night. She was drunkenly texting me.
Last night?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he knows what all happened, but he's a little giggly too. But he's like, she was drunkenly texting me. So I can't imagine what his phone is going to show. The download, the calls, the text messages, the voice messages from Sarah Boone. I can't imagine they're going to be good. I don't know. So we'll see if that becomes part of this trial.
What time?
That was 11 o'clock at night. I think that was.
Last night was Sunday. What does it say?
Oh, that's Saturday. Never mind.
Saturday.
That was Saturday night when I was watching the baseball game.
Okay.
yesterday, which is that.
So I see some people commenting about her putting her kid in a suitcase. I don't know that that is true. That's what the commenter said, Reese's mom. I know a lot of people have done a lot of research in this case, and I know that that's been out there. I have not seen that confirmed in any court documents or that they are going to use it or anything like that. So don't let that color the way you look at this case. If it doesn't come out of trial, the jury's not going to know about it. They're not going to consider it. So we can't confuse those topics.
She said her account was in the negative, so I transferred her a little bit of money to get her out of the negative.
She sent you. Oh, that was the morning. Okay, so she thanked you at 11:56 that morning.
Yeah.
At Northwest, it's clear that's why they were asking those questions. Why did they have the bat? Well, now we know.
Okay. What's the last thank you? What time? Okay, so just a few
Yeah,
times.
and then that one at
She left
12:01.
Okay, so afternoon, Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the calls. Do you need like?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yep, I'll start from the top where it has her information. Go ahead. You can scroll down. Thank you very much. Okay.
He's heard arguments and things.
Anything about her, like
Now they're going to get into what Lucas has told him about being over at that house.
witnessing anything between her and George?
He's heard arguments and things like that.
Okay.
He's not a big fan of staying over here, honestly.
Okay.
Just because they get in arguments and stuff like that. I don't think they've ever had a physical fight in front of him.
Okay.
But I know there's been arguments he's told me about.
Okay.
There's been times where I think things were starting to get to that point, and she has called me to come pick him up
Okay.
and bring him back over to my house.
So decisions she's made in the past when things are about to get physical, how's that going to affect the battered spouse syndrome? What will the doctors say about that and the experts say about that? I think is interesting. Will Lucas get dragged into this? The son, hopefully not. I don't know if they need him either side. We'll see. Sometimes it is necessary. A lot of times it's not. I hope they don't if they can avoid it in this situation, which from the little that I know compared to what the lawyers know on this case, I don't think they need him, but they'll know more than I do.
So she's generally pretty good about having me come get him which leads to me not having a life because I can't ever do anything.
Right.
Comments like that make me think that maybe he doesn't mind sharing custody, but I don't know.
I go anywhere because I'm too worried about something happening to me having to be over here quickly.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's like, it's like I don't even have shared custody because at the drop of a hat, I have to come pick him up at any moment. So, I don't know. I don't know what the battle was, what the agreement was, what he wants, what he doesn't want, but he is thinking this is not even shared custody. Like it's supposed to be, but it's not because I always have to be ready to come pick him up because something bad can happen.
Okay, do you have anything else?
Yeah, do you know if she's ever had any issues with drugs in the past?
To my knowledge, she's never really been a drug person. She's big on alcohol, but I don't think she's ever done. I mean, I think she told me like one time, like back before we got divorced, that at I don't know, this bar thing over there across the street near the Walgreens, whatever it's called.
Okay.
I've never been there, but somebody gave her a little bit of cocaine, like 2 years ago or something like that. I've never known her to do drugs.
What about George?
No clue whatsoever.
She's never complained to you?
No. That's not to say these things don't happen, because I try to keep myself out of and away from them in general. But
Right.
Which vehicle is yours?
the Prius right up here.
I
In front of
guess.
us?
Yeah.
What does that stand for?
That is what I got sent.
Oh,
I know it looks like a vanity thing. No, that's just this last time they I guess sent me a new plate and that's what was on it.
awesome. So you can make that up whatever you want it to be.
I could.
Tell them it's for racing. You're gonna.
Yeah, I know you're racing.
Yes, racing in my Prius.
I'm not saying you win. I'm just saying you race.
Oh man. Okay. Anything else, Scott? Okay. Is there anything else that you think is important for us to know that we have not asked you about either George or Sarah?
I don't think so.
When I mean, you guys have been separated for what do you say, 5?
We've been divorced about a year and a half. We were separated a good 8 months before that or so.
So
And we'd been separated one other time before that, before we got back together and we're trying to do therapy, which didn't work at all. So
How long has she been living in this apartment?
ever since we got divorced. So
A year and a half ago?
no, longer than that then. Because I took over the house. I moved in there and she moved here. Because I told her I was buying her out of the house. So I guess it has been longer than that. I think she just said she renewed, so maybe just past 2 years.
Okay.
That may be right.
I think she said she's been here like 4 years.
No, she's been with George. I don't remember what she said.
Yeah, she was with George before we were divorced. So
Yeah. Okay.
So they've already talked to Sarah and are continuing to talk to Sarah. So they're getting all sorts of information from Brian here that's going to make them realize Sarah's lying. So as soon as they walk into that interrogation room while they're talking to her, they know a lot of what she's spewing is not true. And a lot of it is based on what Brian told them, which again adds to his credibility, in my opinion.
And anytime that you recall when you guys were together, and she would be drunk, did she always like resort to getting angry? Like, is she an angry drunk, or would she like?
Her main problem is she can't stop.
Okay.
I mean, she can't go out and have a glass of wine with dinner.
Right.
That's not a thing she can do, because once she starts drinking, she will continue drinking basically until she out. Yeah.
So that also is not good for Sarah Boone, because she says, oh, we just had a glass of wine or 2 glasses of wine. Now, people can change. People can get better. And I think it is something she said in her interrogation that she was working on. But she paints herself as a very different person than Brian Boone does. So to call him as a witness, the type of person he's going to paint you as, and I'll just give away here, we still have a few minutes left of this video, but absolutely not would I ever call Brian Boone as a witness. Why? What is the point? If you have the police reports, if they'll let you get those in, those types of accusations, if you're going to testify, you definitely don't need him. All he's saying is you told him that this stuff happened. No way, no how would I ever call this guy if I was the defense. If I was the prosecutor, he'd definitely be on my witness list. Because he paints the exact picture that seemingly is how Sarah Boone seems to be, if for all intents and purposes, in every piece of evidence except for Sarah Boone's own testimony. If we look at videos, if we look at call logs, if we look at her text messages, emails, what she buys, what she does, what she says, even some of the police reports to me is all the same. And then Sarah Boone paints herself as a completely different person. Now, who's right? I don't know. We'll see, and we'll see what the jury ends up determining. But to me, I would not call him as a witness if I was the defense.
If she were to be drunk, would she like want to play games with you? Like, did you guys?
Oh, yeah. There's a really good period where she is very good, but then she drinks past that and she gets into the angry bits.
Okay. All right. Okay. Can you just raise your right hand for me? Do you promise and swear everything we've talked about has been ultimately 604? I am on the phone with. Can you say 1st, 2020? The time now is approximately 16.
So this is March 1st, 2020. They do another short interview a couple days later.
41 hours. This is in reference to Orange County case number 20-017904. I am on the phone with. Can you state your name, sir? And I have a couple follow-up questions that I wanted to ask Brian Boone. And
audio is not perfect. We'll do our best. It's only about 5 minutes.
In reference to this case, Brian, just give me your date of birth for me. Okay. And do you promise and swear everything we're going to talk about is going to be true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay. So we had a conversation about the incident and your involvement a few days ago, earlier this week, I believe on Tuesday. And after looking through Sarah's call logs, I noticed that she called you on February 23rd, which would be the Sunday night at around 23:46 hours, which that's military time, but in normal time, that's 11:46 hours. Do you recall that phone call?
I do. Well, somewhat. I was asleep when she called. So she woke me up. I was half asleep when I was talking to her. She did sound very inebriated.
Okay.
I don't remember what all she said. I'm kind of used to her calling drunk late at night and things like that. So it didn't faze me as anything out of the ordinary. I basically just kind of got her off the phone and told her I'm going back to sleep and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
So they found a call that night. He says she was slurring. She was drunk. She woke him up. It was completely normal because he's used to that. Again, not good for Sarah Boone, who swears that she was not drunk that night. Now, we also have, again, corroborating Brian's statements, the suitcase video itself. BSNRN Life said 5,000 more people need to hit the like button. Come on, people, hit the like button. We're almost done. And we're actually going to go a little overtime because we still have a couple minutes left and it's about to hit the hour mark. We usually like to keep our videos for an hour if you're new here. But hit that like button for some overtime.
Okay. You said that she sounded inebriated, like she was drunk.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't sound like. I don't. It's hard. I was half asleep at the time. I don't think I remember hearing anything bad in the background or anything that would have caused me concern, but I don't really remember it that well.
Okay, but she was under the influence of alcohol based off of your knowledge of just knowing her and knowing when and when she's not under the influence.
Yeah. As soon as I heard her start talking, I almost kind of just zoned out away from it because she says all kinds of nonsense when she does this late at night, and just I was trying to get her off the phone so I could go back to sleep. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm on the phone right now. You can get yourself right off. Get yourself right off. Your pajamas are right here, okay? Hold on, buddy. I'm sorry.
It's
I'm sorry.
okay.
Go ahead.
It's okay.
What?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Are you ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you remember her saying anything specifically about George?
I don't think so. I don't really remember. I really don't remember much of the conversation, honestly.
Okay, I appreciate it. Okay, and the phone conversation lasted for a little over 2 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
May have been, yeah.
Okay. And you said that it's kind of normal for her to call you late at night or just kind of whenever she's under the influence and she's kind of just babbling on and you have to try and get her off the phone.
Yeah, it's a thing that happens.
Okay. Okay, so you can't remember anything specific about what she may or may not have said, but she did sound inebriated. Does that sound correct?
Yeah.
And you couldn't hear anything in the background?
Not that.
As far as like arguing or yelling or anything like that, you couldn't hear any of that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Do you know where she was located? Did she ever say?
I was assuming she was at home.
Okay, but she didn't say.
I mean, she didn't have a lot of money. She didn't really go out anywhere, so I assumed she was at home.
Okay, but you wouldn't know where in the house she may have been.
No.
Okay, she didn't give you that information. Okay.
Not that I remember. It's possible she said something. I don't really remember though.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that you think is important for me to know about that phone conversation?
I don't think so.
Do you guys talk often? Like in a day's time? Like, do you guys talk daily?
More than I would like. Normally, anytime I'm calling her, it's to find out if she's actually going to be picking the child up like she's supposed to.
Right.
Like that next morning with me constantly calling.
Right.
She'll call to talk to Lucas, or sometimes when she's drunk, or she wants me to come pick her up because she's scared of George, or any number of different things.
Okay, you're kind of like her call person, like she.
Yeah. It's gotten very old over the last couple of years, so I've started to just kind of ignore what she's saying and just try to get her gone as soon as possible.
Right.
Because honestly, for a long time, I tried to help her out, give her refuge, get away from him, and she just kept bringing him back, and I eventually just gave up on the situation. So. Right.
Okay. All right. Do you promise and swear everything that we have talked about has been true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay. This ends the recording at.
All right. So that's it. And from my perspective, after what we know about the battered spouse syndrome, what we heard him say, I see a few of the tidbits. And if you're trying to grasp at straws, why you might want somebody else to confirm that those things happen. But in reality, he's just going to be regurgitating what Sarah Boone already said. So if she's going to take the stand, which I kind of think she is, I kind of think she wants, unless she really listens to her lawyers and they tell her not to take the stand. My guess is she wants to take the stand. So I'm going to hit a few more of these comments on the way out, but make sure you guys hit the like button if you haven't already. My boys and I, when are you going to trial? I don't know yet. I'm going to try to go for multiple days, and I might get a hotel room up there, go to trial, stay at the hotel, go to trial the next day, and then head home. If I can, that would be ideal, and maybe see some of my colleagues and buddies up in Orlando while I'm there. But I haven't decided what days yet, so we'll have to wait and see. Azam, is Mr. D. Nizer going to be on the podcast too? I don't know about Mr. D. Nizer, but Mr. J. Nizer is picking his favorite true crime case. What case do you guys think John should come and break down on the podcast with me and get his perspective on? That will be interesting. UG Mining AK, love your channel. Been listening for the past 3 months. One of the few times I've been able to catch a live stream. Love from the most northern state in the union. Is that Alaska? I don't know. I'm not good at these kind of history and geography lessons, but thank you, UG Mining AK. Maybe the AK is a giveaway. Nina, OT, but can you explain when something is a federal case or a state case? I understood Trump's RICO is federal and YSL's RICO is state, also other cases. So yeah, so my dad and I have broken this down at length. I'm trying to remember what case. If anybody remembers what case my dad, who's the best at explaining this, there's got to be a federal nexus. The feds have the opportunity to charge certain crimes if there is a federal interest in it, interstate commerce, wiretapping, bank fraud, those types of things. Federal Reserve or some kind of federal crime is being committed. Sometimes it could be state or federal. Sometimes the state doesn't want to, so the feds do. Sometimes the feds want to, regardless of the state, so they tell the state not to, or both do, like in the Ahmaud Arbery situation. So there's really different ways in which this can happen, in different reasons for it going federal versus state. My dad did a long breakdown on it. Anyone want to count 11 hours and then come find me? Oof. No. Rebecca, save till the end. Dak Prescott played a good game. I won again. Peter, my love, you lost. All in good fun. Yeah. Guess what? Kelsey had an idea this week. I don't know if it was a brilliant one or a terrible one, but she said we're going to start posting the results of our fantasy football matchups on our Instagram reels or stories, whatever they're called. So check out if you want to see if I win or lose each week, and all of you that are in the league as well. You can see your wins or losses posted on our Instagram. And Rebecca, make sure you listen to next week's podcast because we have a sponsor that you're going to want to hear about and I think get involved in. If you're able. I'm not sure if you're able to in your state, but make sure you check that out. A lot still to come here. Thank you guys for joining me. Thanks for showing some love on the podcast this morning. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. This case is coming soon. And Whitney is going to give her take in 2 weeks. I think it's September 30th that we're dropping that podcast. So that's all we got for now. Until next time, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.